Okay, and intuition. I think I've said something about intuition, haven't I? And that the knowing that the Buddhas are present. It's really how we know anything. How do we know the ground is holding us up? How do we know it's not just an illusion? Well, at some point you just go with it and see if it works, don't you? And if it works, you think, I think the ground is there. I haven't actually proved it, but I keep walking on it. And you could say, well, that's only because somebody's suspending you from above, but you can't see what the workings of it. But, it's much easier to think the ground is there. So in the same way, in principle, the Buddhas are there. If I start to open to them, I notice something about the quality of my life when that happens. And I could say, oh, well, that's my imagination. Well, you could have all sorts of complicated theories about everything all the time, couldn't you? But it's rather unnecessary. It could just be more simple about it. How do we know anything? We think we know an awful lot of stuff, which is, it turns out that it's all wrong. Or it doesn't make sense, it doesn't hang together. And yet we can function all right. Which is amazing, isn't it? With all our wrong theories and everything else, we can still sort of muddle our way through life. So I think to balk at Buddhas when you're taking on so much else doesn't quite make sense, does it? I mean, not if it's really kind of working. Why have an alternative theory? Oh, well, it's imagination, really. Oh, come on. What's imagination? That's the next question, isn't it? What is imagination? What's memory? What is... I mean, it's an interesting question. What is imagination? I mean, or fantasy, So I think where it becomes fantasy is where, instead of just being open and, in a sense, following your intuitive sense that this is something that's opening up and moving in the right direction, you substitute that to, oh, well, I know it's the Buddha, and I know the Buddha said this, and I know the Buddha's saying that, and he said this to me, and he said that to me, and the other day this happened, and the other day that happened. And you start to think, hang on. Maybe I thought that, or maybe that's, I'm not really sure. And it's interesting in the Tibetan tradition, in the yogic tradition, they're very, very suspicious of visions and dreams and knowings like that. They're kind of very realised beings, have amazing visions and dreams, and they go to their teachers, they go to several teachers to check them out. Is this just something I'm making up? Is this just a fantasy of mine? So it's not easy to know. So it's best to, treat these things with a light touch. I've got a funny sense that maybe this is like that, but actually I don't know. I don't have anything better to go by, so I'm going to go by that. But it's still not claiming its knowledge. You can still go by, as I said, we go by a lot of things that aren't really knowledge. It's our best shot, isn't it? So I suppose you'd say that, I'd say that really. Thinking the Buddhas are really there is your best shot. Yeah. I don't know, does that? I've got your name on this one. But also John, is it?
I think you hit my concern on the bottom when you said, is it fantasy or is it real? Because that's sometimes where I am. Unsure.
Yeah, so just give it your best shot. We live a lot in fantasy, don't we? We were specialists in it. We fantasize our versions and our stories of everything. So try to keep them to a minimum. Try not to make up more than you really, really have to function. But, you know, we do have to invent, we do have to believe something about the past and something about the future, don't we? We're never quite sure. It's quite shocking, actually, when you find that something that you were really, really sure, and you find actually it was wrong. It's very shocking. But yeah, I guess that's where humility comes in, doesn't it? Recognising that we can't be that sure. Even though I use my sure voice. I use my sure voice, and so often it's not right. And then I am right and I use my sure voice and people don't believe me. It's over there! Oh, no, it's not. She's remembering famous incidents.